Thanksgiving, thank you very much. Okay, and so last week we took a slight pause for Pastor Han to come and preach. That was an incredible word last week, and I know Nick and Justin and different ones were super happy to get the Liverpool anthem sung in church, but good for you, right? At least my team hasn't lost 3 times in a row, 2-0 yet. 3-0, sorry. So it's been a rough few weeks for Liverpool fans, but Arsenal's top of the table. Well, Arsenal's top of the table. We'll see how long that lasts. Right? But give thanks while it lasts. But we're going to continue on week 3 of our series, Living a Life of Thanksgiving. All right? And just to really briefly recap, right, review what we did on the first 2 weeks. We talked about how Thanksgiving is to praise, to confess. It's a response to what Jesus has done for us, and it describes even what we do at communion. We talked about how Thanksgiving has such a powerful effect on our lives. Opens the door to miracles, postures us before God. And we also talked about how we want to remain thankful even in difficult situations. And so today we're gonna dive a little bit further, right, in talking about how to live a life of thanksgiving. And first, I want to help you understand something. So now how many of you here, you go to the gym? Give me a wave if you go to the gym. Okay, there's some of you, yeah, all right. Josh, yeah, Ivan goes to the gym, yeah, different ones, all right. Nick, every day in the gym, all right. There's many of you guys go to the gym, right? And it's interesting because, gym people usually talk about going to the gym, right? They don't usually keep it on the inside of them. It either comes out in conversations. Hey, where were you this morning? Oh yeah, 5 a.m. I woke up, went to the gym. Like, cool, needed to know that, right? It's going to show up on some kind of Insta story, like, just a picture of the weight that they just did, or like, their heart rate monitor, like stats or whatever. It will come out somewhere. But see, there's 2 kinds of people that go to the gym. See, there's the first kind, that when they start going, they'll talk about it, they'll put it up on Instagram, and sometimes when you're in a conversation with them, and they might slip something in there, like, hey, yeah, this morning I was at the gym, and I was there for like 1 hour, I did 3 sets, and suddenly people around will go, really, man? So, oh, you go to the gym, What, you cannot tell, like, oh, ouch, right? And you're like, But then there's the other kind of person, right, that like they go to the gym, and when they happen to mention it, yeah, this morning I did a quick one before I came, and you look at them, you're like, yeah, I can tell, no wonder, you look like it, right? Now, what's the difference between those 2 kind of people? See, the first kind of person, this is their mentality, this is their psyche. They're like, hey, I gymmed this week so I can have this ice cream. Hey, I ran 10K on the treadmill this morning so I can have this prata tonight. Hey, I did 45 minutes of cardio yesterday morning at 5 a.m., so let's hit the buffet this afternoon. And they don't see much transformation in their lives. But then the second kind of person is a little bit different. They're the kind that goes like, hey, I go to the gym, so I'm not going to have this ice cream. They're the kind of person that says, well, it's because I ran 10K this morning, I'm not going to have Max tonight. They're the kind of person that says, I did 45 minutes of cardio this morning, so I'm not going to pig out on this buffet. They're the guys that see the results. See, but what's the difference between these 2 kind of people? See, for the first person, the gym is an activity. They go to the gym. They do the gym things. They take the gym selfie. They post the gym post. And it's an activity that they do, and they move on with life. But for the second kind of person, the gym is not just an activity. Health is their lifestyle. They take the gym with them, right? When they're thinking about what they're gonna eat, it's not, I burned 1,000 this morning so I can eat 1,000 right now. They're going, I burned 1,000 this morning so I'm not gonna eat 1,000 right now because I'm gonna be healthy. There's a difference between the gym as an activity and health as a lifestyle. And for you and I, we are not called to have Thanksgiving as an activity in our lives. No. We're meant to live a lifestyle of thanksgiving. That's why Paul in 1 Thessalonians, in that verse we've been reading for the last few weeks, says, always be joyful, never stop praying. These are lifestyles he's talking about. Be thankful in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you who belong to Christ Jesus. That's a lifestyle of thanksgiving he's talking about. In Colossians chapter 3, we're going to camp out in Colossians today. Paul's writing this letter from prison in Rome. He's near the end of his life. He knows he's probably going to get executed at some point. And I find it amazing because Paul, through all his letters, I think we mentioned the other week, he mentions thanks or thanksgiving at least 36 times. That's, about 2.769 times per letter, which is very frequent Thanksgiving. Some of us don't thank God the same amount in our text and all that. But in Colossians, which is written when he's in prison, he mentions thankfulness and him thanking God at least 7 times in this letter. He mentions it in his opening in the letter, right? Thank God for you. He talks in chapter 2 about overflowing in thankfulness. And then in chapter 3, he mentions it 3 times in just these few short passages. I want to read them to you. Colossians chapter 3, verse 12 to 7, he says this. He says, since God chose you to be the holy people he loves, you must clothe yourselves with tender-hearted mercy, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. Above all, clothe yourselves with love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. It says, let the peace that comes from Christ rule in your hearts. For as members of one body, you're called to live in peace. Here's the first mention. He says, always be thankful. Let the message about Christ in all its richness fill your lives. Teach and counsel each other with all the wisdom he gives. Sing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs to God with thankful hearts. And whatever you do or say, do it as a representative of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks through him to God the Father. In case you haven't gotten the message by this point, Paul is talking a lot about thanksgiving, thankfulness, being thankful, right? And I love what he describes in this passage because the way it starts off, it goes, hey, be the holy people he loves. Be the holy people. He's describing a way of living, right? It's not just an activity. That's who they are. That they are a holy people. I think in our context, we should be a thanksgiving people, right? He goes on to say, you must clothe yourself. Now, how many of you clothe yourself every day? Those without hands raised, I'm worried right now. Well, I don't know what you do in your home, but clothe yourself every day, please, all right? Fresh clothes every day, hopefully, all right? Not stuff that's been lying around your room for weeks, all right? But it's something you do daily, right? Clothing yourself is something you do daily. And Paul goes here, hey, you must clothe yourselves with these things. That's what our lifestyle is meant to look like. We should clothe ourselves with thanksgiving every day. Thanksgiving should be like clothing. It should be like a lifestyle. See, Thanksgiving is not meant to be an activity. It's meant to be a lifestyle. Now, but some of us are like, why? Why do I need this lifestyle? I've been fine without being thankful. No, I want to challenge you this morning. See, because for some of us, we don't connect the dots. We might be struggling in a difficult situation right now. I want to tell you, Thanksgiving is the key to your breakthrough. For some of us, we find ourselves, you're constantly striving for more. What I have is not enough. I want a little bit more. What's the next job? What's the next promotion? What's the next raise that I can get? What's the next thing that I can buy? Can I tell you, Thanksgiving is the key to fulfillment. Or for some of us, we feel like, man, I'm lacking joy. Maybe I'm struggling with patterns of thought that are heavy, or patterns of thought and depression. Can I say today that yes, get help and all that, but Thanksgiving can set you free. God can set you free. And you know what? Some of us, you're all good. Hey, great. Good for you if you're all good. But you know what? As good as you think you are, Thanksgiving can help you live a richer and a fuller life as you appreciate more the things that you do have. But what we need is not just the activity of Thanksgiving. We need the lifestyle. Everyone say lifestyle. Right? The lifestyle of Thanksgiving. So today we're going to dive into this. We're going to talk about how you and I can have a lifestyle of Thanksgiving. Right, but the first thing that I need us to understand and wrap our minds around today is a little bit of our lifestyles, right? And I know many different people, you've got different lifestyles. Some of you, you're like the 5 a.m. club lifestyle, right? You wake up at 5, you're in the gym by 5:30, you have breakfast by 6, you've conquered the world by 9, right? Some of us, we just woke up, okay? Some of you, you're a student, so you have no choice. You're in the student lifestyle, right? You might be late for school, you might be on time for school, but you don't have a choice. You have to go to school. That's your lifestyle. But I want to frame it for us this way. The first thing I want us to understand about our lifestyles is this, is that our lifestyle is the fruit of our discipline or lack of it. Okay? So the lifestyle that you now have is the fruit. But it's either the fruit of discipline or it's the fruit of lack of discipline. So let me try and describe it this way. Some of you guys, Your lifestyle is one where it's healthy, you've got good sleep habits, you have a bedtime every night, you have a wake time every morning, and you do that. Now, to have that lifestyle, in order to have that lifestyle, it requires discipline. It means that when you get home, after dinner, you spend time with your kids, or if you're a kid, you spend time with your family, you do your homework. There's a discipline that you follow, and when it hits 10 p.m., you go like, 10 p.m. is not the moment for me to go to the freezer, open it, and pull out a pint of ice cream. 10 p.m. is not the moment for me to turn on the TV, toss on Netflix, and start watching a series. No. I'm disciplined, and so my lifestyle is going to be a fruit of that discipline that I have. But then there's some of us where our lifestyle is you set your alarm for 7 and 7:05 and 7:10 and 7:15 and 7:20 and 7:25 and 7:30, and you snooze through all of them and wake up at 8:30, and you're rushing and you're late for work, and you have to tell your boss, hey, I'm late for this meeting. You take a picture of the traffic jam to try and justify why you're late, right? And now, but how about that lifestyle? Well, that's the product of a lack of discipline. Because chances are the night before, you walked into your kitchen, you opened the freezer, and you saw a tub of Ben & Jerry's cookie dough ice cream in there, and you grabbed that, and you were like, hey, you know what? I should eat ice cream tonight. And as you open it, you realize, oh, it's been eaten. Should I scoop some out? But you know what? It's like, I think I could finish this because it's a waste to take out another cup, and then I have to wash the cup after eating the ice cream, and so I'm going to save water. I'm going to finish the pint tonight. And then while you're sitting there with your pint, you're like, well, I can't just sit here and eat ice cream and not do nothing. I should watch something while I'm doing this. So I'm going to flick on the TV and then go to Netflix, and there's a new series, let's start that. And 6 hours later, you're there hugging your empty pint of ice cream. You finish, all the Stranger Things, and you're like, I should go to bed. And then you're late the next morning. Well, that's a lifestyle that's born of a fruit of a lack of discipline. And so we got to recognize that our lifestyles are not by accident. They are formed either by the presence of discipline in your life or a lack of discipline in your life. And I just want to put it out there for us that a lifestyle of thanksgiving doesn't happen accidentally. In fact, a thankful spirit in our hearts, it's something that doesn't happen naturally. Why do you think Paul has to remind them so many times in the Bible? Rejoice, always, and again, I say, rejoice, be thankful, let thankfulness overflow, right? In every circumstance, be thankful. Why? Because we're not thankful creatures by nature. All right, if we're being real for us, it's much easier to find problems over possibilities. It's much easier to find complaints rather than compliments. This is who we are. It's the way we're wired as humans. And a thankful spirit doesn't come naturally. It's something that we have to discipline ourselves into. That's why the way Paul says here, he says, hey, God chose you to be holy people. You must. Everyone say must. What's must? Must is a command. It's a discipline, right? When I respond to that command, I am disciplining myself to do that thing. Thanksgiving is not just an activity, but in order to have that lifestyle, I must start to see it as a spiritual discipline. See, it may not sound super spiritual, but it is very spiritual. Thanksgiving is a spiritual discipline. And the thing about disciplines, though, is that you only see the fruit over time. You can't go like, hey, I was thankful today, why nothing changed yet? No, you got to give it time. Right? That's the thing with lifestyles. That's the thing with disciplines. You've got to give it time for the fruit to come out. For many of us, your parents, and you discipline your kids when they're 3, 4, and you're like, why is it not working? Well, sometimes it's not going to work right away, but it's going to show up when they're 9, it's going to show up when they're 13, it's going to show up when they're 20, it's going to show up when they're 25. That discipline bears fruit over time. So I want us to understand this. Our lifestyle is the fruit of our discipline or lack of it, and a lifestyle of thanksgiving, that's a spiritual discipline that you and I must have, right? So then Paul begins to talk here about, hey, he's like, you must clothe yourself. He begins to give us a pattern of like what it looks like to establish a lifestyle. And the second thing about lifestyles I want us to catch is this. See, a lifestyle of thanksgiving grows with training, not trying. Right? A lifestyle of thanksgiving grows with training, not trying. See, there's a difference with someone who tries at the gym and trains at the gym. The trying guy goes in and, I don't know how to use this machine. I tried. Then you see all these funny videos of people doing weird stuff with machines. That's them trying, right? I'll try this weight. And the next time I'll try the treadmill. And the next time I'll try that machine. Compared to the guy who they have sets that they're working out. They're like, hey, I'm doing this 3 times a week. After 6 weeks, I'm going to up this weight. I'm going to change. There's training that's happening. The way that we're meant to grow our lives in Christ is not a way of trying. It's a way of training. Right? And maybe for some of us, we're like, well, I've tried Thanksgiving. Well, have you trained in Thanksgiving? Right? See, discipline is something that requires training. Discipline is something that requires a plan. Paul is very deliberate in the language that he chooses to use in his letters. There's many times when Paul talks about us growing in our relationship with God, and he starts to use imagery and language of the army and soldiers who are being commissioned and they have a job to do. He begins to talk about athletes and boxers and the way that they train themselves to win a prize. This is language that he's trying to get us to see that our lives with God are not a matter of chance or trying. No, they're a matter of discipline and training. That's why he says in 1 Timothy 4, he goes, physical training is good, but training for godliness, not trying for godliness, training for godliness is much better, promising benefits in this life and the life to come. You know, maybe there's some of you here today, you might be joining us for the very first time. Maybe you're here and you don't believe in Jesus, you don't know God. Well, I'm here to tell you that today you can have an opportunity to take a first step to believe in Jesus. That's the most incredible decision that you can make because you can experience God's love and God's forgiveness. You will understand why we have something to be thankful for. But can I also say that that's not the end of it? Even though that's the best decision that you can make, God wants to grow that relationship with Him. You can grow deeper in relationship with God. You can get to know God more and more and more. But that takes a little bit of intentionality of our part to go, I want to grow in this. I want to train in this. Right? What does training and discipline require? Well, one, discipline is something that is constant. Training is something that's constant. If you do it once a year, it's not called training. Right? Is it weekly? Is it bi-weekly? Like what's the constant rhythm of training, right? It's something that is not one-off. It's got to be a constant. So is my Thanksgiving constant? Or does it switch on and off, right? What else does discipline require or training require? Training requires intentionality. I have to go out of my way to do it. I have to go out of my way to plan for it. Well, it's the same thing with our Thanksgiving. Do we go out of our way to think about Thanksgiving? Do we go out of our way to plan, hey, how am I going to be a thankful person? Right? A discipline also requires a routine for you to build into. Right? Any kind of thing you want to train yourself in, you got to have a routine. Right? We are trying to train, our kids to play the piano, right? So we send them on Thursday night to a piano class. There's a routine that they go. We try to keep a routine of them practicing the piano during the day. Now, that's a little bit more of a struggle to get done, right? But there's a routine that we try to establish. Why? Because they need the discipline to get good at it. They need a routine to train at it. Discipline and training need a plan. If you're not planning for it, if you see how, you will do it once, maybe twice, but that's probably the end of it. Right? You've got to have a plan when it comes to training and discipline. And you can study all of Paul's letters, and constantly he's going to go over and over about you've got to be intentional. There needs to be consistency in our lives. And it's a challenge for us that, hey, for you and I, if we want to have a lifestyle of thanksgiving, if we want to live lives that know how to give thanks, it's something that you and I need to train ourselves in, not just go, I'm going to give it a shot this week and see how it goes. No, it's going to actually take some work from us. Right? So then the question is how? Right? How do we train in Thanksgiving? Because if you're saying, hey, I want to train to lose 10 kilos by the end of the year, hard 10 kilos by the end of the year, but maybe in the next year, okay, it's easy to plan that. Run 2 times a week, hit the gym, whatever. You can train. For guys who are still in reserves, thank you, Jesus, I'm done. But for those guys who still have to pass your IPPT every year, I'm sorry for you. But if you want to pass it next year because you failed out this year or you defaulted this year, you need a plan. Right? And it's easy to plan for that. Go RT like run, train, do your push-ups, do your sit-ups. Physical training, the plan's a lot more obvious. But sometimes when it comes to a spiritual thing, we're like, how do I plan for this? Right? No, there's a lot of things in the church that are available to you to plan your spiritual growth, right? For those of you, if you've never been to Growth Track before, it's absolutely amazing. It will train you to grow, right? LIW classes are amazing. It will train you in the Word of God. That's all opportunities for you to train yourself and plan. You can plan. The levels are all there. The classes are all there. You can plan when you're going to take classes and all that. But how about Thanksgiving, right? How do we train ourselves in Thanksgiving? Well, I'm going to give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 super practical things that each one of us, you can start doing like today, all right, to train ourselves from Thanksgiving. And we're going to pull this from what Paul says, because what Paul says in Colossians chapter 3, verse 12 to 17 is, even though not everything he talks about there is directly about Thanksgiving, what he's establishing is he's giving a pattern where he's going, hey, you're called to live this kind of life. You're called to be God's holy people, right? And so he begins to give us basically a game plan or a roadmap of steps that we can take, a pattern that we can establish so that we can have a certain kind of lifestyle, right? So the first thing that Paul says, he says, clothe yourself, right? So that's routine. Right? For some of you, your routine is you stand in front of your cupboard every morning and then you go like, I don't know what to wear, I got no clothes. Right? You have a routine that you carry out when you get dressed. Well, the first thing you and I have to do is we got to have a routine for our Thanksgiving. All right? Set a Thanksgiving time slot. Right? Very practical. Set a Thanksgiving time slot. Thanksgiving time slot. I'm sorry. That's messing me up. Right? Set a Thanksgiving time slot. When are you going to do it? When I wake up at 6 in the morning, all right? When I right before I go to bed at 11, like when is your time slot? Right before I go for lunch, when are you gonna do it? Because if there's no when, you will not do it. Okay, that's just how it is. If there's no when, you won't do it. We were on a trip with our family, and well, the first day was a little bit rough because the kids were probably a little bit tired, but also just like wanting everything, right? And so we had a talk. We had to have a talk. And we had to go like, hey, you know what, kids, you need to understand how blessed you are. You need to be thankful. So at the end of every day, each of you, you're going to talk about 3 things that you were thankful for during the day. So that means you have to find 3 things that you're thankful for during the day and focus on things that you're thankful for so that you stop being upset about things that you don't have, all right? And so we did it. So at the end of the day, the evening after we got the shower, we sat down, we were like, okay, kids, what are you thankful for today? We had to fix a time to do it so that they could come back on it, right? But what it did was it established a little bit of a routine. But for them, it also meant during the day, they were looking out for things to be thankful for, because if they didn't look out at the end of the day, when we sat down, they would be like, I got nothing to be thankful for. I think one of the days, Livy kept thanking God for the things from the day before. We're like, no, how about today, right? So establish that routine, right? Set that time slot. Now, secondly, what Paul says is, he says, remember. Everyone say remember. He says, remember the Lord forgave you, you must forgive others. But see, the key thing there is about remembering. It's about remembering God's faithfulness. It's about remembering God's goodness. Now, can we be honest though? Our memories aren't as great as we think they are. Let's be honest. Like some of us were like, no, I confirm remember, don't need to write it down. And then you walk away and you promptly forget it. Right? And so, start a Thanksgiving journal. Whatever that looks like for you, but write down God's faithfulness. Don't leave it to chance. I feel Thanksgiving is too important to leave it to the chance of your memory. No, write it down. All right, answered prayers, write it down. Things that you receive, things that you see that you're thankful for, write it down. If you have a physical journal kind of thing, you like a nice like paper, whatever, awesome, do that. If you're like no paper, don't want to kill trees, you have a phone, all right? And there's the thing called the Notes app in there. If you're on Samsung, I don't know what you have, but I'm sure you have some equivalent of the Notes app, all right? And pull it out and write down things that you're thankful for. Keep a record, start a Thanksgiving. You know what? In fact, let's do it right now. Everyone pull your phone out. Don't open TikTok or whatever. Just pull your phone out right now. Go to the Notes app or the Android equivalent, all right? And if you don't already have one, start a new note. Everyone, just start a new note, all right? Go for it. I'm giving you permission to use your phone in church right now, okay? Okay, I'm going to give you 30 seconds just to write down one thing you're thankful for, right? Find something from today you're thankful for. Just write it down. I'll give you 30 seconds. This is the start of your Thanksgiving journal, all right? Some of you are typing very furiously, so I'll give you about another 30 seconds, all right, to put that Thanksgiving thing down. All right, everyone got something written down? If you do, just wave your phone at me so I know you've got it. Or if you're on a paper journal, more power to you. Keep using paper. It's awesome. Kill the trees. It's okay. I want to encourage you, what you started today, don't let this be the last time you open that note. Don't let this be the last time you pull out that piece of paper. Add to it. End of today. All throughout next week. Keep adding to it. And you know what? When it comes to that time in your Connect group when people go like, when your CGL goes like, hey, anyone has any testimonies? And everybody sits there for like 30 seconds in awkward silence. You won't have to do that anymore because you just have to open that note and you have all your options to choose from. Okay, CGLs, you're welcome. Now, what's next? All right. In verse 15, Paul says this. He says, let the peace that comes from Christ rule in your hearts. What he's challenging us there is that, hey, we got to let peace rule our minds. We got to let peace rule our thoughts. We got to let peace rule our speech. But if we're being honest, especially in our culture, in our society, sometimes it's not peace that rules our thoughts and our speech. It's complaining that rules our thoughts and our speech. Complaining, if we had it as a national sport, we'd be an Olympic gold. Okay? So I want to challenge you this way, all right? How do you let peace rule? How do you guard your hearts and minds and let peace rule? Well, one simple way is this: fast from complaining. Okay, fast from complaining. You can fast many other things, but this one will help you. Right, fast from complaining. Just try to go like, you know what? For the rest of today, until lunch, I'm not going to complain a single time. See how that changes you. That's just an hour and a half later, by the way, you know. Try it a day, try it half a day, try it a week. It's hard, by the way, I've tried. It's really, really hard. Fast from complaining. The peace of God will rule your heart. The peace of God will rule your mind. You find yourself responding differently because we choose to allow a different pattern to set in our lives. All right, number 4, I'm going to get the band to come. We're going to get ready to pray in just a moment. In verse 16, he talks about, hey, let the message of Christ in all its richness fill your lives. That part we get. Right, that God comes and fill our lives. But then he goes on to say, he says, teach and counsel each other with all the wisdom he gives. So Paul challenges us, hey, you know what? God will fill your life. He's going to fill your life with the message of Christ. He's going to fill your life with wisdom. He's going to fill your life with richness. But the aim is not for you to hoard that richness and hoard that message and hoard that wisdom. No. Teach and counsel each other. Give it out. Right? Be open-handed with what God gives you. We're not hoarding it. We're going to be generous with what God gives us. Number 4, if you want to have a lifestyle of thanksgiving, get good at giving. Right? Get good at giving. Now, it might be literal giving, like, hey, when it comes around giving and, hey, go to VFC.com/give, all that stuff, right? To go, like, I'm going to practice that. Every time there's an opportunity to give, I'm going to give something, right? No matter how big or how small. You can give in your deeds, in your actions to other people, serving other people, buying someone lunch, taking someone out. But you know one other way you can be generous in? It's to be generous in your words. See, sometimes when we want to complain about something, we have a lot of words to use. But sometimes when we want to thank someone or when we want to be generous to someone with our encouragement, usually all we can find is a good job. And we're not sure what to say after that. But can I challenge us today that we will be generous, yes, with our finance, yes, with our time, yes, with our actions, but we be generous with our words. In fact, let me let you do this. Let me let you practice right now. Okay? So you find one person next to you, and I just want you to say one thing, right, that you are thankful about, like, for them about, okay? So one thing that you're thankful for them about. I'll give you a moment to practice generosity with your words. Right? Go for it. You've got a minute. Look at someone next to you and just find one thing, right? One thing that you're thankful for. Thank them for something they've done. Thank them for who they are. It's fine that some of you need a little bit more time. Good, it's okay. I'll give you a few minutes to do this. You can practice being generous with your words, all right? Husbands, wives, I'm giving you a chance here, all right, to score some brownie points with your spouse this morning. Grab the chance. Don't miss it. Ivan, you can text your wife. I know she's not here. Just text her and say, hey, I'm thankful for you, babe, for blah, blah, blah. Give you a moment to finish what you're saying to someone next to you. If you need to give someone a hug, you can give someone a hug. Just appreciate them, Be generous, all right? Hugs are free. Okay, you know you pay on. Hey, be generous with our love. Be generous with our words. Give out. It'll change your life. It'll change the way that you relate with people. Right, everyone got to try? Yes? With at least one person next to you? Okay, good. One last thing, and we're going to pray. In verse 16, Paul finishes off this verse and he says, sing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs to God with thankful hearts. And for you and I think that's a challenge to seize every opportunity to praise. You see, Paul was in a prison, wrongfully in prison. What were they doing in the prison? They were singing and praising, right? And for you and I, that means, hey, we seize every opportunity to praise. Every chance we get to praise and worship God. Whether you're on your own, whether you're with your connect group, whether you're here on a Sunday, grab a hold of every chance that we have to worship and to praise, because that's how we establish a lifestyle of thanksgiving. We thank God for who He is. We thank God for what He's done. Right? You do these things, I'm telling you, you will establish a pattern of thanksgiving in your life. It'll change your perspective. It'll change your responses. It'll change the way that you look at God. It will change the way you engage with His promises. In fact, this morning, I want us to all stand and we're being practical today, okay? We're gonna practice a lot of the things that we're doing. So can we practice this last one together? Can we seize this opportunity to praise and worship together? Right? Can we do that? So I'll give you a moment to put your notes away and you can stand. I know some people are rushing to type down the last point. You got a second to do that. But we're going to take a moment this morning. We're going to praise. We're going to worship. We're going to say, God, you're awesome. You're great. You've been so good to us. And I want you to do something this morning, though, because you've been pretty comfy in your seats this morning. But I want to challenge you that to make a decision this morning. To say, God, I don't want to just think about trying about a life of thanksgiving. No, I actually want to commit to something and say that, God, I want to live a life of thanksgiving. And so this morning, as Lena leads us in worship in a moment, I want you to actually respond from your seats and come down to the front. And as a sign of saying, God, this is my commitment. I'm not just going to try Thanksgiving. Train me in this. And as we worship this morning, I believe God's going to change our perspective. I believe God's going to change our hearts this morning as we worship. Right, so come, Lena, why don't you just begin to lead us? And if you're saying, hey, you know what, I want to step into a lifestyle of Thanksgiving right now, you respond from your seats and come down to the front. And as we worship, the Holy Spirit's going to move in our hearts this morning.